Coronation Street spoilers. Tim Metcalfe's past with Trisha Pinkerton takes a disturbing turn. Coronation Street looks set to delve even deeper into one of its most unsettling storylines, as recent scenes have hinted that Tim Metcalfe and Trisha Pinkerton's history could take a much darker turn than anyone expected. What started out as a seemingly harmless reunion has quickly evolved into one of the soap's most controversial and thought-provoking plots. This week's episode saw Trisha Pinkerton, an old flame from Tim's past, arrive on the cobbles unexpectedly. After decades apart, she wasted no time in turning on the charm, flirting openly and suggesting she wouldn't mind rekindling their past connection. Tim, flattered by the attention, seemed oblivious to the potential implications and was soon bragging about their past encounter to Brian Packham. During a casual conversation in the Rovers, Tim shockingly revealed that he had lost his virginity to Trisha when he was just 14 years old, while she was 20. Instead of realizing the seriousness of his words, Tim laughed it off, proudly telling Brian that all his mates were jealous of him at the time. However, Brian was visibly horrified, recognizing that what Tim described wasn't a youthful fling, but grooming. In Friday's episode, Brian decided to confront Trisha directly. Their tense exchange quickly turned sour when he accused her of taking advantage of a child, calling her behavior predatory. Trisha, visibly shaken, denied the accusation and insisted it was all in the past. Tim, furious with Brian for confronting her, accused his friend of overstepping the mark. But Brian refused to back down, insisting that Trisha was the one who crossed the line years ago. As the story unfolded, Sally Metcalfe found herself drawn into the shocking situation. Curious and concerned, she sat down with Tim to talk about his history with Trisha. He tried to downplay the situation, repeating that it had been consensual and that he hadn't been hurt by it. Sally, however, was unconvinced. The more she listened, the more disturbed she became by how casually Tim viewed what had happened to him as a teenager. Later, Sally decided to dig deeper and searched Trisha's name on social media. What she found left her deeply unsettled, a disturbing comment from someone suggesting that Trisha should be locked up for what she's done. The post implied that Tim might not have been the only underage victim of Trisha's behavior. The revelation left Sally shaken, as she began to realize that what Tim experienced was far from normal. When Sally confronted Tim with what she'd found, he initially brushed it off, accusing her of overreacting as she so often does. But Tim's confidence began to crack after a heart-to-heart with his old friend Kevin Webster. Kevin, still hurting after discovering Abby's betrayal with his brother Carl, reminded Tim how fragile relationships can be and how lucky he is to have Sally by his side. The conversation seemed to strike a chord, and Tim began to see things from a new perspective. Determined to take control of the situation, Tim arranged to meet Trisha one last time. He thanked her for reaching out and admitted it had been nice to reconnect after all these years, but told her firmly that he wanted to draw a line under their past. It was a quiet but decisive moment, showing that Tim was beginning to acknowledge that something about their relationship wasn't right. However, fans of Coronation Street know that storylines like this rarely end so neatly. Trisha's reaction to Tim's decision remains to be seen, and there's a growing sense that this could be just the beginning of an even darker chapter. The social media post about her past behavior hints that more people might come forward, potentially exposing a much wider pattern of grooming. The soap has tackled difficult topics before, but this particular storyline is sparking strong reactions from viewers, who are praising the show for exploring male survivors of abuse, a subject rarely addressed in mainstream drama. As Tim begins to process the truth about his past, Coronation Street looks set to handle the sensitive issue with depth and emotional honesty. With tensions rising between Tim, Sally, and Trisha, and with Brian refusing to stay quiet, the fallout from this revelation could have lasting effects on the entire Metcalfe household. The question now is whether Trisha will accept Tim's decision to cut contact, or if she's about to cause even more chaos on the cobbles. Either way, Coronation Street is clearly gearing up for a storyline that will challenge perceptions, test loyalties, and shine a light on a topic that's far too often left in the shadows.